Hello, everybody. My name is Stacy Budd. I'm a principal consultant for pre-sales with Arcserve, and I would like to take a moment and thanks everybody for taking time out of your day today, either if it's early in the day or late in the day, depending on where you are, to listen to me rattle on about automated DR testing, okay, and what Arcserve can do for you to help you in that area of testing and disaster recovery and how important disaster recovery testing is. If you're not familiar with Arcserve, Arcserve's been around for quite a while. Actually founded in '83, delivered our first backup data protection solution in 1988. So yeah, we've been in this field for quite a bit of time. We're the world's most experienced data protection solution provider, I guess you could say that, okay? All this time helping businesses protect their priceless digital assets, right? Our primary focus has always been and continues to deliver complete business continuity to mid-sized and enterprise business across the globe. When we take a look at, reality, okay, and we take a look at, the challenges that are out there, and we look at, some of the I hate to say the scary stuff out there, but it absolutely is the scary stuff out there, right? Last year, 24 SMBs, right, 24% of SMBs fell victim to cybersecurity breaches of some type, right? They experienced downtime. 71% of companies out there experienced some type of downtime last year. Average reduction of IT managed costs, right, is going down. I've been in this industry for going on 20 years, and I can't remember a time that IT, wasn't being reduced in some way or some factor. So it's definitely now more than ever, right, a big factor as far as that goes. We talk about that downtime, either whether it's due to cybersecurity, whether it's due to natural disasters, or sometimes, man-made disasters, right? Somebody deploys an update or a patch or deletes a server off of a VM that they weren't supposed to, any number of reasons, right? The cost for that is just rising, right? The cost that companies endure from those systems being down. If you can imagine a large company like a retail company, online company, right? They lose their web servers. In today's world, we don't typically, as a consumer, come back later, right? What we tend to do is we go to another site where I know I can purchase that widget or those pair of pants or whatever it might be, right, as far as that goes. If you're an SMB, you may not recover from that, okay? And most SMBs, I can tell you for a fact, do not feel good about their disaster recovery plans they have in place. Number one, because of the cost of implementing as we'll see here, not only the cost that they feel that they're going to have for implementing, but also from a manpower perspective too, and time to do all this, right? A lot of those are being driven to the cloud. A lot of those SMBs and a lot of those mid-market are being driven to the cloud, and when we take a look at that, that's also driving the DR capabilities to the cloud as well. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at take a look at those processes, right, and what Arcserve can do to help you as far as that goes. If you think about it, when disasters hits, really seconds matter, right? Organizations, large or small, they're seeking data protection systems with zero tolerance for more than a few seconds of data loss, right? We answer this need with our disaster avoidance solutions, right? Every organization is being overwhelmed by enterprise expectations, whereby they're expected to adhere to stricter service level availability agreements without enterprise budgets. This is where the challenge lies. These organizations cannot afford the complex and expensive solutions offered by some vendors, nor can they justify DRaaS solutions that may recover systems quickly, but are recovering hours old data, right? You need to be able to recover data that's that's relevant, right? And that's where Arcserve can help, right? Um, I'm going to show you why Arcserve's trusted by tens of thousands of organizations who use our unified data protection product to power their disaster recovery plans. So what are some of the common mistakes made with disaster recovery planning? You know, if we take a look at it, I don't think that these are going to surprise too many people out there, right? When we take a look at, you know, the most important step is scoping out what's important. And I have this conversation with customers quite frequently. They're like, what should I protect, or how should I protect it? And really the people that are going to be able to answer that are inside the organization. Okay. So you should never trust a vendor to tell you, protect these systems, they're your most important systems. You'll know what your most important systems are and what your organization can't run without. Okay. Also, companies fail to focus on restoration times. So it's fantastic, you know, I have this solution that's backing up constantly. How long is it going to take me to restore that data? Am I restoring an entire machine, or am I restoring just segments of data, right? And really understand what the impact of those are, right? Make sure that you're carrying out those real world tests, right? More than just a random periodic restore test. I also often tell people, you know, that part of a DR test should also be, okay, everybody's in the room, we're doing a DR test, so we're going to execute it. All right, you three aren't here anymore, right? You're on vacation in Tahiti or something like that, so everybody else needs to know how to do your job, right? And that comes down to creating a very good DR plan, right? And learning, right, as you perform these DR tests, so that when you have an actual disaster recovery occur, people will be prepared, and their steps will be documented in case somebody is not there, so that your DR process can still go off without a hitch, or with as little of a hiccup as possible. That's the goal, right? So mention DR testing, you know, it's something that, you know, really is important. It's a must-have, right? Everybody should be doing DR testing. They should definitely test in a controlled environment, right? So you don't want to be running your DR test and it, you know, impact your production environment. You want to test your recovery time, how long it's going to take to recover those systems, and you want to test, you know, where you're recovering from, the point in time as well. Those three key things are going to be very, very important. If you're not running tests, right, you're going to run the risk of having significant downtime. Not to mention, you know, the stress it's going to put you under. I don't think that can be you know, overlooked either, right? You have to have documentation in secondary locations and saved in the cloud. One of the things, I live in Florida, and you know, one of the things we're hearing on the news now is up in Panama City that got hit so hard with Hurricane Michael, is that the city was asking for tents and asking for supplies, and the state didn't supply them. And the state's response was, you know what, you didn't ask for the right channels. Okay. Not putting, you know, blame, or I'm not picking one side or the other. There's a lot of different approaches and opinions on that, you know, but at the end of the day, you know, they should have been prepared for that. What if our systems did go down? How do we still, you know, contact and go through the right channels in order to do this? Okay, so, you know, that's part of it, right? So, you know, having that process tested, having know what the steps are, and then, okay, I don't have any internet connection, which you probably won't during a disaster recovery. How are we going to do this without that, right? So make sure you do a thorough disaster recovery testing as well. You need to understand your recovery point objective. I've been in this industry for, again, close to 20 years. And when I look at, common, question across the board, how frequently you want to do your backups, right? How frequently do you want to protect your data? Maybe you don't need to be recovering from a backup. Maybe you need continuous protection. You're going to understand that by understanding the value of your data, okay, when we go into that. So do you want to back up daily? Do you want to back up? Do you need to back up throughout the day, maybe every so many hours or minutes, right? How often do you need to protect that data? Then when we go into it and look at it, your recovery time objectives. How long can you afford for that recovery to take place? Do you need that machine to come up in minutes? Do you need that machine to come up in an hour's fine, right? Do you need to have almost a simultaneous failover? What is your acceptable downtime for that? And then not only being able to spin the system up, but everybody being able to connect to it as well. Right? So, why don't people do DR testing? Okay. Well, and these are common things, right? Testing, a lot of times, you got to make sure you have that environment so that you can test on. Okay. So you got to make sure you can do it without impacting your production environment, right? People often do their testing, in the evening or the weekends, right? So that means they're bringing in staff in order to do the testing, right? So you got to make sure you have that staff available. You may pay them extra money, right? So you need to make sure from a financial standpoint, you can afford that. And sometimes that limits people. Maybe only test, once a year, right? I definitely would recommend you test more often than that, right? But these are all reasons why you find DR testing to be a challenge or a pain, as it states here. Okay. When you look at how often you should test, it's really up to your organization how frequently you test. I say the more frequent, the better. Okay, there's different levels of testing, right? Making sure the data is recoverable in those is one type of testing. Making sure that your people know that their steps is another type of testing. And the levels. Do I want to test every system or the entire, all my systems going down? What would I do in those cases? So that will predicate whether or not you test every 6 months or monthly or weekly. Definitely at most, I would say 6 months. I would like to see companies do some type of DR testing at some level every month, right? And when you look at that and you compare that to the first two things of people coming in on weekends or nights, that could be, a lot of overtime, right? So that's another reason why people back away from this. Okay. And then, does your existing backup solution have the capability to automate these steps? Some solutions do, ours do, right? Some solutions out there, they're just protecting your data, right? So you need to understand, where you are as far as that goes. So, what if you could schedule your DR tests through your backup software? That'd be a lot easier, right? If you could automate that testing. And that's what we're going to see here today. Test without impacting your production environment. So you can automate that testing. If you could take it and not impact your production environment, automatically test without any user involvement. You just get the report that the servers came up, the test was successful, right? Now we're starting to get rid of those objections that we have on the top, right? Customize your testing with different scripts that you can write and things like that as well. Understanding your recovery time objectives and your recovery point objectives for your critical systems. Okay, so being able to create SLAs and make sure that you're hitting those, right, from a perspective of that critical data. Ensure your recovery points are validated, right? So your recovery points of your backups, make sure that they're validated to guarantee that there's no data corruption. The worst time, I think, in any backup administrator's, time is when they have a system down and they're trying to restore it, because they hope everything works, they test it, and they do everything else, but it's the one time that they're like, let's just hope we can get that data back. Okay. And then be able to test, in multiple locations, right? So maybe you only have one location, you test that single location. Maybe you replicate to a secondary location, be able to test there. Be able to, if you're sending that data up to the cloud, being able to test the data coming back from the cloud as well. And then being able to present those reports for those DR tests, recovery time objectives for those DR tests, so that management and auditors, depending on your role in your company, can take and have, in some cases, with some businesses, you need to be able to audit that and be able to take and prove that you've done and performed DR testing. Just depends on um, what field you're in, whether it's medical, legal, or financial, right? There's all these different regulatory compliancy that requires these different things. So being able to supply those reports is very important. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to switch over to my server. I'm going to take and show you the process that we use within Arcserve UDP, Unified Data Protection, in order to perform this automated DR testing. We won't go through a whole complete overview of our interface or anything like that. I just want to focus primarily on our assured recovery testing. And this testing can be local, it can be remote. In this particular scenario, I have a server here. It's an Exchange server, and we've taken, and I was replicating it. I pulled my replication task out of there, but I could have done my DR testing, my assured recovery testing local. I could have performed it remote, at the other location. If I was sending up to cloud, I could have performed it up there in the Arcserve Cloud as well, or Amazon or Azure clouds as well, right, in order to be able to do that. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go in. I've already got this plan created, so we're going to go in and just modify that plan. And as we go through it, first thing that we presented here, this is my backup. Okay, so I'm backing up, in this case, just a single server to a destination, to a drive base, disk-based destination on a schedule. And then I have some advanced things like notifications and things like that in there as well. So we're not going to go through that, but schedule, of course, how frequently you're backing up your data, which is kind of important, right? When we talk about, DR testing, really RPO is important, right? So this particular machine, I'm backing up daily. If I wanted to add a schedule and back up this data more frequently, do incremental backups every so many hours or every so many minutes, I could do that as well, right, on one particular days of the week. So be able to set that RPO, frequency of backup as well. For our assured recovery test, what we're going to do is we're going to go through and you're going to define what do you want to test. So I could, if I was doing daily, weekly, or monthlies, I could choose, let's go through and test just my daily backups or my weekly backups or my monthly backups. I could specify specifically that taking those steps. And I am running off my laptop, so it's taking a moment to validate my hypervisor, but we'll give it a minute here. And then we'll go into our test settings, and we'll take a look at how everything is set up within that. Now, I do see a question out there while that's validating, and it was a question along SMB. What does SMB stand for? Small, medium business, okay? That really kind of depends on your organization, where you lie within there, the size of the organization, from a what we call node perspective, user perspective, or desktop server perspective, all of that as well. All right, we'll give this just a minute more. And I didn't mean to click off of there. Sorry, folks. And it looks like my ESX server is down. So what we'll do is we'll choose a different server. Instead of my ESX, we'll go over to a Hyper-V server to kind of show you what this configuration would look like. So what we'll do is we'll just connect into a specific Hyper-V server that I have. We're going to choose a server that's going to perform the emulation during that process. And that's what our assured recovery testing is here. We have our backups as we showed you. And then what we have is we're then going to mount those backups as virtual machines in our environment. When we do that, we're going to provide a prefix so that when you're in your hypervisor, in our case, Hyper-V in this case, or VMware, that you'll be able to identify it as a test system as part of that process. We're going to take and we're going to mount that backup in a location that you'll specify. It's just an empty folder. Any empty folder named anything. I named mine IVM, right? You could create a new folder if I wanted to do that, right? So up here I could create a folder called Assured Recovery. And we could mount it in that particular folder. Once the test is done, we're gonna dismount that so it will no longer take up space. We're then gonna to dictate the resources that we want to give that particular system. How many processors, how much memory, do we want to connect an adapter to it? All those are going to be steps that we do. Keep in mind here too, as we perform our backups and our backup task, if I'm going to perform assured recovery, then I want to make sure that I go through for assured recovery, and I want to do it on similar systems so that, you know, I can make sense here, right? As far as if I have systems of 1 processors and 4 processors, well, I probably want them in different plans to perform assured recovery so that when I spin that up, I'm not spinning up a single processor machine with 4 processors, which isn't really a big deal, but the other way around it is, right? So you got to keep that in mind too. And not only can we do instant virtual machine like I'm doing here, where we're spinning up the entire machine, but if I was backing up just data, you know, and a share, I could take it and spin that up as an instant virtual disk as well. Next, we're going to take a look at our schedule. This is how frequently we're going to run that test, right? And by default, if I chose for my source the latest backup and I leave this blank, it'll be as soon as that backup's done. And then we'll just go through, and if we needed it to run on a particular schedule, like I only wanted to run on Saturday or Sundays, I could go through and I could add a schedule for that to run. Lastly, we're going to take a look at heartbeat properties. That's once the hypervisor realizes the machine is up and running, and the hypervisor will tell us that it's got a heartbeat from the system. So how long before that times out? You know, what's the acceptable time frame? What's the frequency as far as that goes? Do we need to run any scripts as part of that test, right? If you're connecting it to a network, maybe you need to make sure that pings something, right? Or if you're, you know, taking and bringing up that system and it's a database server, maybe you need to make sure that your database services start, things like that as well. So you can put in scripts, you know, that'll return, you know, 1s and 0s, pass and fails. And then lastly, alerts and notifications, email settings, those kind of things are going to be important for you too. So we would go through and we would save this test, and then it would run on that schedule with my backup. Or if I wanted to run that test out of schedule, all I need to do is select the system and choose run assured recovery test now. Now, I don't know too many things that are more boring than looking at, backups running and things like that. So I'm not going to trigger this. Okay, if you're interested in a deeper dive, please reach out to us and we can definitely, show you more of the interface and we can do all this for you today. But in interest of your time, we'll go through. Usually your assured recovery test is going to take a matter of minutes for that system to boot up. How long is it going to take for your system to boot up normally, right? So we may have a little bit longer time because we're emulating it, but it should be reasonably within that, and you're going to set your expectations along that. So when we take a look at what Arcserve is offering, right? One fully integrated platform eliminates data loss across the cloud, virtual and physical IT infrastructures, right? Being able to take and whether or not you're using VMware, Hyper-V, physical systems, and even in some cases, other hypervisors that we just put an agent on there. Okay. So this is leveraging, our backup software, Arcserve Unified Data Protection, in order to spin that up. Okay. Our platform, it includes backup to be able to protect the systems. That backup could be a software solution using your own hardware, or it could be one of our UDP appliances, which include the software and the hardware. And it also can include the cloud, the Arcserve Cloud. We offer that as well. And then also disaster recovery as a service, being able to spin those systems, those critical systems up in the cloud. Maybe some you're just backing up using backup as a service. And then your critical systems, you're having the disaster recovery as a service, so you can spin those up. And if we take a look at the slide for a moment, we look at our Arcserve UDP software. Again, this is the same software that's on our appliances, right? License per socket, per server, per terabyte, depending on which makes best sense for you. Or the appliances, which range from 4 to 80 terabytes of raw disk capacity. That's before any deduplication or anything like that occurs. Okay, and then you can add on additional storage to those appliances as well if you outgrow them. And then we look at our cloud, Arcserve Cloud offering, our hybrid offering, being able to take that data that you're backing up from the UDP system and be able to spin those up and replicate those first off to the Arcserve Cloud, and then with disaster recovery as a service, spin those systems up there as well. That DR test could be done either on-premise or in the cloud, right? And then we also have a cloud direct offering, really not talking about it today, but where we don't need to deploy an on-premise solution, and we can provide disaster recovery as a service in our cloud direct environment as well. So that's directly taking it and backing up data directly to the Arcserve Cloud and be able to spin systems up there. The advantage to the UDP software is you can do a local test, local restore, and you have that as well. Whereas Cloud Direct, you send the data directly to our cloud. Never forget the 3-2-1 rule, right? You should always have 3 copies of your data, 1 primary and 2 backups. That data should be in at least 2 types of storage media, right? Local drives, NAS, tape, cloud, somewhere else, right? And it should be also at least 1 set of that data offsite, right? So we always make sure you're remembering that 3-2-1 rule. If you are looking at a solution, a DR solution today, make sure that you're aware. I'm not in sales, meaning I'm in a pre-sales role, and absolutely, I can help you as far as that goes. But reach out to your Arcserve sales team and talk to them about some of the great deals that we have. One of them is the buy one get one offer that we have, right, where you take and you buy an appliance and we'll give you another appliance for free. Okay, a second appliance for free. Not only that, but we'll also take and we'll upgrade you to our premium or premium plus software on those appliances. Okay. Premium Plus gives you the ability to do continuous data protection of your systems. So not only from backups, but continuously protect your systems as well. So definitely a big value from that. And then I know that we also have some cloud offerings too, right on top of that. So, keep that in mind, if you're looking at a solution or looking at something right now, if your budget's within that December timeframe, that you're going to do that, I definitely would recommend taking a look at that. Now, we talked a lot about protecting, your data, your Windows servers, your Linux servers, your workstations, protecting them frequently, all that as well. Key applications, SQL Exchange, all of those. I don't know if I specifically mentioned those. Oracle, I mean, you name it. We support a whole list of applications out there on top of that. Okay. Also, we see a lot of customers migrating their servers and their data up to Office 365. Okay. So you still want to back up, you still want to protect that data. Office 365 is a fantastic solution. Really what they're providing is availability of the data, right? If somebody were to delete a mailbox or delete a document, that data is going to be housed for 30 days and then moved to a repository and may be available for 60 days, but then it's going to be gone. And if they get rid of a whole mailbox, it may even be shorter, right? So you still have the reason to back up and protect your data when it's in Office 365. So understanding that, do you want to take and be able to back that data up back, on premise, right? And be able to do that as well. So we can do that with our UDP software, right? Bringing that back down to your appliance. That data is going to be deduplicated when it goes on there. So we'll be able to do that. And then we can take and replicate that data up to the Arcserve Cloud, where to once again be deduplicated up there as well. So then you can have it not only in Office 365, you can have backups of it on-prem, and you could have backups of it in the Arcserve Cloud as well. A lot of people would say, why would I back it up on-prem and then replicate it to cloud? You could take it and back it up directly to our Arcserve Cloud too, right? So being able to take and protect your Office 365 Exchange Online and your SharePoint and back it up directly to a recovery point server or backup server in our cloud, in the Arcserve Cloud, right? This is going to protect against accidental deletion, right? We're going to be able to recover emails, calendars, contacts, tasks, notes, documents, right? You can selectively choose what you want to back up or restore, right? Where you want to restore to, original location or an alternate location. And when we look at, Arcserve Cloud Hybrid, this is going to be based on the amount of storage needed. Remember, it's post-dedupe, which is going to be a very important distinction of the way that we license our cloud environment, right? And you're not actually being licensed for any compute for our backup servers or anything up there as well. You would be licensed for the compute for the DR systems that you're spinning up, right? When we take a look at, backup as a service and replicating and sending data to the Arcserve Cloud, it's a secure offsite location, right? We have data centers in the U.S., in New Jersey and California, right? With the physical security you'd expect to have, they are managed and operated by Arcserve. That cloud is. So you're going to pick up the phone, you're going to be talking to Arcserve the whole way through. You'd have your protected workloads that you are backing up locally to your appliance or software. and then replicating that data. And when we replicate that data, it's going to be the unique data that gets replicated. So we're going to reduce your bandwidth not only on your local area network, but also on your wide area network as well. And those data centers, they're going to have multiple 10 gig pipes coming in, so we can ingest that data pretty quickly, right? This is going to give you that long-term cloud backup destination, right? An alternative to keeping your data on site or moving it to tape and having to manage tape, you know, for regulatory compliance. Okay. We can take, and we're going to talk next about taking and performing disaster recovery as a service up in that cloud. And not to sound like a broken record, but you know, we are leveraging that source side deduplication from a pricing standpoint, and then also from a WAN optimization standpoint too. When you look at disaster recovery as a service in the cloud hybrid, Arcserve Cloud hybrid solution, you're looking at taking those backups and be able to spin those VMs up in the cloud. So why I call them VMs, it could have been physical machines originally, right? But once we take and we perform disaster recovery as a service, we'll emulate that the backup's a virtual machine and we'll spin it up virtually for you. And then we're going to help you with connectivity and everything like that too, so that when you need to connect to that, you can do that. You can test it as frequently as you want to. Automated testing, manual testing, whatever you need to do as far as that goes. So you could run that automated DR testing in the cloud, and you could also test on-prem as well. And we should be able to bring up most of your tier 1 applications in 15 minutes or less. Right? Many servers are going to come up in probably 4 or 5 minutes. Some applications take a little bit longer for the services to start. When you look at those data centers, we have 3 data centers right now. I don't think we have one listed here, but California, New Jersey, and then over in Europe as well. Right? I mentioned physical security, everything you expect to see as far as that goes. Your data, when it goes across the wire, is going to be encrypted in motion and at rest. Right? We should hit most of your regulatory compliance needs. We're performing self-healing, right? We're taking a look at the data, monitoring that data, see if anything needs to be corrected, right? We have redundancy within the data center where your data is in multiple locations, redundant. So if we were to lose a server, we'd have your data replicated to a second system over in that data center as well. Definitely is going to be a reliable solution, right? From an uptime standpoint, right? I mentioned the multiple uplinks, 10 gig uplinks that we have. And then compliancy, we don't list all the compliancies here, you know, but the main ones, you know, HIPAA, FISMA, FINRA is not listed. I know it's on there as well, right? PCI, GDPR, all those are going to be there as well. So, you know, in summary, you know, get savvy with your DR testing, right? If you don't have a DR plan, start thinking about it now. Okay, it's definitely important. You have to have that plan. It has to be documented, has to be tested, and you should find a solution that's gonna fit within that. Okay, discuss with the key business owners, right? Not the owners of the company, although those would be important as well, probably. But you know, I've often come across where somebody will say, yeah, you know, a daily restore is fine, and then they go to and they talk to somebody, you know, that you know is in accounting or something like that, or a C-level person. They're like, no, we can't afford to be down, you know, to lose a day's worth of data. We need to do it more frequently. By having that discussion, then it's easier to talk to about budgets and things like that as well. Okay, so understanding your recovery point objective, recovery time objective for different tiers of servers and applications. Not every set of data is going to be equal. Not every application is going to be equal. You're going to have to determine which are your priority systems, right? And start with the most critical systems that the business depends on. You know, do you have a DR site? If you do, fantastic, right? We can support having a second system in your DR location, right? And spinning up and leveraging our product at your DR location. If you don't have one, have you considered, cloud for that disaster recovery? A lot of people consider cloud for retention of data, right? But it can also be used for disaster recovery as well. So we can provide that for you there. How can the technology that you have today, the products that you have today, help you with that DR planning, to help you better understand the RTOs that you're receiving, recovery time objectives, your recovery point objectives, and be able to better understand those, and then be able to test and being able to execute that DR plan, right? Technology absolutely should, assist you, add value, right? It shouldn't add complexity, right? It shouldn't determine how it's done for you. Okay, you as far as that goes, you're going to have to take and better understand that. Okay, and that's going to be by having those conversations with the key business owners, as I like to call them. It should be affordable, right? We're seeing a lot of cost that used to and capabilities that were available in the past to enterprise. Those solutions are coming down into the SMB, the small mid business market. Okay, so definitely the cost is coming down for this. It should integrate with your data protection solution, right? So you don't need multiple solutions. That adds to complexity, right? So if you have one solution that kind of helps with both of those, it will definitely help you as far as that goes. So we do have a number of questions out there. I'm going to take a few minutes. We're going to answer those questions. I'm definitely done a little bit early today, but we're going to take and just kind of answer these questions. So feel free, submit your questions as we're going through this. First question out there, and actually this individual, it shows that they've left, but I think it's an important question nonetheless to ask or to answer. Is, does this replace our backup software? So when you look at Arcserve as a company, we have, our traditional file-based backup. We have our unified data protection product. We have our direct-to-cloud solution, right? So for disaster recovery testing and disaster recovery as a service, we can do that on two of the three, right? Your file-based product, definitely you still want to, you shouldn't be probably recovering from, a traditional daily backup, unless that's what your requirements are, right? So if you have data that you can afford to only restore daily, or recover from it a day's worth, maybe you'd be looking at that. But unified data protection, and even our Cloud Direct solution, you can back up throughout the day, so you can have a much more granular and a quicker restore recovery time objective as well. You can bring up those systems in minutes. From Greg, a question about, does Arcserve provide a backup solution, or do you have to use this with that? Yeah, we provide the backup solution, and we're leveraging that backup solution, right, in order to perform these tests. We also have our high availability solution, which says continuous protection. We'd still recommend you back up the solution with that, right, as far as that goes, but we even offer that solution, the high availability solution for continuous data protection. So I said 3, right, before: backup, UDP, cloud hybrid, Cloud Direct, and high availability, so a 5th, right? Question about, the buy one, get one free solution in October. I'd reach out to your sales team on that one, just to let you know. I believe it did come with the upgrades and all that, but definitely reach out to your sales team on that and make sure. Yeah, so great question here from John. John is a current Arcserve Cloud user and DRAS a user, and one thing to understand is, we've taken and we've moved this to our own data centers now, and we're migrating customers to our own data center, to our own cloud environment, no longer partnering with a cloud solution out there, but bringing it over to our own solution. So, if you've looked at our solution in the past, right, the main thing is that it's going to look identical. We've not done anything to change anything as far as that goes, from going from the partnered solution to now our own solution. But what you should see is better performance as far as that goes too. Plus, you'll be working with Arcserve across the board, right? So we don't have to request for somebody else to spin up a server. We can definitely do that. So if John, if you haven't migrated over, reach out to your sales team, and they can get you migrated over to the cloud hybrid, the Arcserve Cloud. Okay. As far as what's the expected time, right, to access the disaster recovery as a service on the new private cloud, that's the great thing about this, is that you're with the Arcserve Cloud, you can spin up those systems. Your VPN connectivity should already be set ahead of time and all of that. So we're looking at minutes to be able to access that data, to be able to do that as well. Question from Greg around bare metal recovery. Absolutely, we support that. So to dissimilar hardware, which is an important distinction here as well, being able to take and restore, whether it's a server or a workstation, back onto different hardware, maybe with different size drives, right? In some cases, smaller drives. Usually you're going to larger drives in those cases, but definitely you can do that as well. Kind of last question I have here is, can you do replication services with UDP, replicate my data volumes somewhere else? Absolutely, we could do that, right? So if it's just data that you want to replicate, you're not concerned about backup, or maybe you want to replicate it to another location and then back it up at that location, we could do that, right? So use our replication solution to replicate the data, and then use the UDP solution to back up the data, and then use the assured recovery process to take and mount that as an instant virtual disk and run a test to make sure it's recoverable as well. So be able to do that too. All right, so we got done about 10 minutes early here. I want to thank everybody for their time today. I know it's a lot to ask people to take time out of their day and listen to different vendors talk about solutions and things like that. Hopefully you found it of a value to you. What I request is, if you have further questions, reach out to us. We'll be happy to answer those questions. If you'd like to see a more in-depth demo of the product, we can do that for you as well. There are trial downloads on our Arcserve website, so arcserve.com. Feel free to download the product, trial the product. Somebody will reach out to you as part of that process as well. We can help you during that trial process. We can also take in, again, I mentioned more in-depth demos, those kind of things too. So just wrapping up here. Thank you for your time, and everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you.